everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest making his pro debut in a few days at the Indy Pro in Indianapolis, Indiana. Big dude. I've known him for a few years. Please welcome from Decatur, Illinois, Brent Swansen. How are you, Brent?
Good, Ron. How we doing, buddy?
Good, yeah. Before we started recording, you're one of the many pros I beat in my career who were in their larval stage when I beat them. You were just a little caterpillar, and then kaboom! Yeah, the Brent I competed against, I think you ate 2 or 3 of those at this point.
Yeah, the funny thing was that was the first show I was truly in condition, was at the Universe, right, when I competed against you. Yeah. And I think I had dieted, if I remember correctly, I think I weighed in at 215 or 16 pounds, but wow. I didn't really, back then there wasn't as much information. I didn't have a true coach. You just talk to guys at the gym, and these guys now have it so easy, as far as, finding information. Back then, back, not that I'm super old, but, back in those times, there was a lot of trial and error. And I was like, I just want to be conditioned, and I know how to carb up properly. But, hey, I did get third. So in that show, and, it was the Universe. It was called Team Universe back then. Yeah. I got third, so I was just really blessed to be in the top 5. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a pretty big class. I mean, I think we had 10 or 15 guys in there. So yeah,
and I'm pretty sure you were the youngest. You were 25 at that time, 24.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you said 2011, correct?
Yeah.
That was 10, 11 years ago. Yeah, so I was 24, 25 years old.
Was it New Jersey that year? It was, right? Teaneck?
Yeah, Teaneck, New Jersey. New Jersey.
Yeah, I remember pulling up to the Marriott. We were arriving at almost the same time, and you're always scoping everyone out. I wonder if that guy's in my class. You had blonde, spiky kind of hair back then.
Yeah. Now it's baldy and brown.
But anyway, I remember it because you had a tank top on. I'm like, oh, that guy's in really good. This young guy's in good shape. I hope he's not in my class, and you were. But let's get some I know so little about you as far as the background. I don't know your backstory. How did you get into bodybuilding?
Well, I'm one of those guys that let's start back to high school. High school days, I played sports. I was an athlete. The reason why I got into the weight room is because I was littler than everybody. I didn't go through puberty till I was a senior in high school. I had to shave till college. Wow. It was embarrassing. So I was in the weight room, and I just loved lifting, man. I started to love lifting more than I did sports, and there's a few bodybuilders, national level bodybuilders in there. And then when they saw that I was legit and I was young and I lifted weights every day, my license had been 14 years old. They're like, have you ever thought about maybe trying bodybuilding? And I was like, bodybuilding? I knew Kim and Chad, my coach Chad Nichols and Kim Chavesky, because they're from originally the same hometown that I'm in. So at a very early age, when she was in her heyday, we're from a town of 60,000 people, right? Yeah. I can remember seeing them in the grocery store and saying, oh my gosh, those people look so cool. I want to do that. But, being a scrawny 120, 30 pound kid, I'm I don't know if I can do this. So anyways, they kind of made a bet with me that, hey, we'll get you ready for your first show. So I did my first show at 20 years old. You know how it is, man. When that competing bug hits you, it hits you hard. And I've just been doing it ever since. And, I'm just so glad that, I found the sport. I found a passion that I truly love in life.
Yeah. And you started out in natural organizations, NGA, NBA. You were actually a natural pro at a very young age. It looks like.
Yep.
You were 21, 22 when you turned pro?
It's all kind of runs together, but yeah, around then. So.
Yeah. Because you were 4th place in the professional universe back in 2010, the year before I met you. So, man, so many things to get through here. You work in a school setting. You teach physical education. I see Okaw Valley. So is that a regional? What grades do you teach?
So I teach high school, phys ed, health, and driver's ed. I'm from a very small school setting. Our school has about 180 students in it. Oh, wow. And I'm the only PE teacher. And the reason why they hired me 12 years ago is that, back when we were kids, it was, let's just roll the ball out and play. And the whole is we want to teach these high school kids how to eat correctly, how to exercise, just so they know, hey, when they get done with school, they know how to take care of their bodies, right? That's the whole goal of this administration. And I was like, hey, this is right up my alley. So, on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, we lift weights. Wednesdays, we do like plyometrics. And then like Fridays, I give them a game day a week. And I've been doing that for 12 years. And then I just actually finished my master's degree in administration. So at some point when the bodybuilding stops, because I don't have time with the bodybuilding now, but I want to get into being a principal or athletic director or vice principal, things like that. So,
I don't want to make this all about the teaching, but that is such an important subject or area, because man, when we were kid, well, I'm a lot older than you, but when I was a kid, we didn't really need we didn't need gym class because everyone was running around, riding bikes, climbing trees. These kids now, my goodness gracious, some of them never leave their house. They never
it's
lift
crazy,
a finger.
But Ron, I think it's because of easement. I think how many households do you have mom and dad working, and they almost like they use a computer and video games as a babysitter. But I tell you what, when you introduce these kids to lifting weights and taking care of themselves, like all of my quote unquote nerd kids that you consider kind of nerdy, they're the ones who like lifting weights the most, because guess what? When in PE class, when you play a team game, a lot of those kids shy away because they know they're not athletic, to where when you put them in a weight room setting, it's them versus themselves. And it's just really cool to see how hard the kids that you would think would never work hard. You know what I mean? And it's just really cool to see their growth. Teaching's all about measuring growth, right? So, we measure their maxes from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And we actually just did our maxes now, especially these freshmen and sophomores who are just getting their feet wet. It's fun to watch them, because it brings me back to a time when I first started lifting weights. And, when you first get to the gym and you just get stronger, just by working hard, and it's very fun for me to watch these kids go through that process.
So I know when I was in high school, I'd never seen a human being in real life that looked like you. What kind of reactions do these kids, especially like first day of class, the first time they see you in person, do these kids freak out because, you're like a cartoon character?
Well, I think, anybody who knows me, I'm very, very easygoing and down to earth. And I have kids tell me all the time that come from like the middle school, there's like, Mr. Swansen, we were kind of afraid to take your class, but they said, you're the most easygoing teacher that we have. And, it's just funny that looks aren't everything. I'm like, well, I just said, I appreciate it, but that's just kind of my demeanor. I don't get really high. I don't get really low, and, I just care for the kids, and I just really, truly enjoy my job. At times I wish that I paid a little bit more being a teacher, but, I mean, me and my wife Autumn do very well. So I'm not complaining one bit about it, but yeah, man. So like, I just really, there's not a day that goes by to where I say to myself, I hate my job. So, I mean, I think if you can do that in life, that's winning to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's another thing. You're married to Autumn Swansen. I can't remember what her name was before. Do you?
Autumn Edward. Yeah, I know we've been together since I've been 20 years old. And we were married when I think, gosh, I should know this. She's going to kill me. I think we were 25, but no, we've been together for about 16 years now. So,
because I don't remember any other last name. So yeah, I've always known her as Autumn Swansen. And I think the first time I figured out you were married, I'm like, oh, I just thought you had the same last name. And then I think I saw you together. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Illinois, dumbass. How come you didn't figure this out? But so you're a 2-pro household. Does that make this whole process easier? Because so many competitors I know that they're married to someone that's really not part of this world. It can lead to conflict, especially in the contest prep stuff. The fact that she understands this 100%, she's gone through it herself sometimes. Does that make it a lot easier as far as just, general atmosphere at home?
Yeah, for sure. And, like I said, I mean, I'm not just saying this, but I mean, like there's a lot of people who don't like to be married. Like I love my wife. I mean, I truly believe that she was the one for me, there's not, so we're very happy to begin with. I think if there's underlying issues, then if you throw competing on top of that, talk about divorce. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so we just know that when she gets ready for a show, there's times when I have to pick up the slack and do more. And then when I get ready for a show, there's times where she's got to pick up the slack too. And I just think that it's just kind of a it's just kind of understood, you know, that when I'm not feeling the best, I don't have a lot of extra energy. She might have to do a few extra chores. And then when she's in that same boat, I got to do the same thing too. But I think the thing is that when you have both people who pull 100% for each other, you know, that's what kind of makes it work. And they, like you said, you know, unless you compete, you don't understand how I feel right now. You know what I mean? Especially in the condition that I'm in. I mean, like I'm dragging right now, but you know, it's really good. And she motivates me. And, you know, we don't keep anything. There's no garbage in this house. So even if I wanted to cheat on something, which I wouldn't, like there's nothing on this house to even cheat on. You know what I mean? So it's not like we got kids running around and fruit snacks and all that garbage just sitting and tempting you, you know? So
that was my life as a competitor. We always had all kinds of shit around the house because they were kids. What were we going to say? No, you can't have that food around the house, you little brat.
Here's your chicken and broccoli.
So you guys have never prepped at the same time then?
No, we have actually. And that makes it a little tough. I'll be honest. It's doable, but it's way easier when I get ready for a show and then when she does. Now, you know as well as I do, doing all the shows that you've done. I mean, up into the 8-week out mark, I'm okay and I'm pretty functional, right? But when they get to that 8-week mark and that body fat drops pretty low, it gets very, very hard, you know. And we have a really good support system. So my parents live literally across the street from us. So if we need help, like preparing food or anything like that, they're retired, they'll help us out. So, I mean, I think we just have such a good support system to where, I mean, yeah, is it hard? Of course it's hard, but you know, you have people who actually care about you doing well and will do pretty much anything for you. So
that's awesome. Be like, Mom, I need 40 chicken breasts by tomorrow, cooked.
Mom, meatloaf.
Make it happen. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place with this, but man, you have the same coach as two-time Mr. Olympia, Big Rami, Chad Nichols. He does not work with a lot of people. He's very, very selective.
Right.
Doesn't work with like 40, 50 people. How did you become part of that elite group of people, athletes that gets coached by Chad Nichols?
Well, like I said, Chad's from my hometown of Decatur, Illinois. And his family knew my family. And every year we'd always stay in contact. And he used to coach Autumn for a little bit as well. And every year at nationals, I mean, I don't even know how many national shows I did, you know, to where I was like always in the top 5. I was never out of the top 5. I was always like one spot away. And, you know, and Chad would always be there at the national committee conventions. So we'd always like have dinner and hang out. He'd come up to the room and, you know, we would just talk about, you know, Decatur, where we're from or just whatever. And we've always been really, really good friends. And then also too, Muscular, who we're sponsored by, we would always go to his shows and work the booths for him. So, I mean, we've just had a good relationship with him forever, you know. And the thing with Chad is that I think he understood that, because in all honesty, so the year that I lost to Hunter Labrada and Sean Smith beat me by 1 point for that second pro card, I honestly thought I was done. I was like, how many more national shows do I got to do? I mean, I've been knocking at the door forever. Like, my whole goal in this was to turn pro, and not saying that this is a cheapening way, but I didn't want to get through the Masters. Like, I wanted to turn pro, not in the Bahamas. Like, I wanted to turn pro, USA's, nationals, like, because to me, that it might not matter to anybody else. I don't look down at anybody else who turns pro another way. I honestly don't. But for me in my heart, even though when I did turn pro, it was a second place nationals, it's still the NPC nationals, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
So, you know, so in my heart of hearts, I was like, man, should I just be done? You know, I've been competing since I've been 20 years old. And, you know, I had some people in my corner who was just like, well, I don't know if you can do any better, this and that. Chad just sat me down. He's like, dude, why don't you just let me get you ready for your next show? He's just like, I promise you we will make this happen. Because I told him what some other people in my corner were talking about to me, how they said, well, we don't know if you can, you know, go any higher than this. And he just like, just give me one prep. And I tell you what, in 2020, one prep and turned pro.
Wow. What was different? Because had you coached yourself prior to that?
I had coached myself, and I don't, and again, it wasn't even really my coach who at the time who was Mandis Buckle. Me and Mandis are very close. Like, I love Mandis, so this is nothing against him whatsoever. And these words did not come out of his mouth, but there are some other people in Illinois and around the Midwest just kind of dogging me, saying, well, he always comes in really good condition, but his shape or whatever. And we all have weaknesses, Ron. I mean, unless you're Mr. Olympia, everybody's got weaknesses. So in saying all that, it just kind of got in my head, honestly. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to give Chad an opportunity. To me, you know, some people might disagree with me, but I think he's the best in the business, and we just really get along well. And I think he likes my mindset because he knows that I will push. And sometimes I push too much, honestly. Like, I don't cheat on my diet, I don't cheat on my training, I don't cheat on one iota. And I might not be the most genetically blessed person on stage, but I beat a lot of people who are who I have less gifts with then, because I simply outwork him. Right. He's all about work. And anyways, I think that's why he knew that he could take me to at least reach my goal of turning pro. And now we're just continuing on this ride.
So the things people always talk about in general about what he does different with athletes is tons more food than they're used to, and usually more cardio than you're used to. Was that the case?
Well, okay. So let me explain that. And I don't want to give too much away, but the thing with Chad, with me, and he's had to do things a little bit different than me, because you got to remember I'm a type 1 diabetic. So when I pound these carbs, you know, every time I pound carbs, I got to use insulin, because I'm on an insulin pump, right? Mm-hmm. So I know I'm not pumping as many carbs as some of his other athletes, but with Chad, the protein is sky high. The protein is crazy high. Off season, 12 to 16 ounces cooked meat, chicken, turkey, every meal. Right now I'm at 12 ounces cooked, and you know, the carbs kind of go up and down based on the day and things like that. Really no added fats. The fats are pretty much for my meats and everything. But yeah, the thing with Chad is, man, he loves to push the protein, but you know, I put on a lot of muscle since I've worked with Chad, and you know, people will guesstimate what he does and things like that, but I have never worked with somebody and I'm healthy. I mean, my labs are healthy. I feel very, very good. Like, as far as health wise, obviously, like, I'm a week out from my show, I'm brain dead, but that's to be expected, you know. Yeah. But you know, Chad's just a really, really good guy, and all these people who just give him crap all the time, I think it's out of jealousy, and they don't really understand the guy. You know what I mean? So
yeah, if you're a coach with like no successful clients, nobody's going to talk about you. But
exactly.
You got Mr. Olympia as your top client. Everyone's going to talk smack. I know the protein's high. In grams, what was the highest, do you know, like, you had in the off season?
God, in all honesty, and it's bad because I contest prep people, but honestly, whatever he puts on that paper, I just do. So I don't even really calculate it. But I mean, right now we're about at 12 ounces cooked every meal, and I'm eating 6 meals a day, no protein shake. So, I mean, right now I'm at 12 ounces at every meal.
So
right now it's either fish or it's like super, super, super lean ground beef.
Do you think it was like 2 grams per pound of body weight at any point?
Oh, above that, yeah. I at some points I would probably say out between 500 and 600 per day.
Wow, you know, that's, people need to realize how large you are. I don't think we've actually said anything about that yet. You're about 260 right now, contest shape.
So here's a crazy thing. So so the reason why I've had success in bodybuilding is because my conditioning, and I'm big. My shape, I'm, you know, some black guy with a 28-inch genetic waist. Like, that's not me. Okay. You know, that's just not my calling card. So I always went on conditioning. So at nationals, I would say the nationals that I won, I was probably the most conditioned guy in the whole thing. And I was 265 a week out from nationals. And right now, as of this morning, I'm 256, and I have things popping out of me that, like, in all honesty, like, we knew we wanted to push conditioning because we know that's what's going to get me noticed, right? Yeah. But the thing is and I kind of had a picture in my head of what I might look like. And obviously I'm pretty flat right now, but I mean, just like looking in the mirror, I'm like, oh, like, That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, you've been
You know,
putting
so I'm
the
at a
pictures
level.
the pictures you've been posting on Facebook past couple weeks are insane. Insane.
Yeah,
Well, Instagram too, I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah. So my whole thing is, you know, but and I get nervous, but then I don't, because I know I have my wife and I know I have Chad, but then I'm just thinking to myself, you know, if I just bring this look to stage, I know that I will be very, very happy, you know. And at the pro stage, like I honestly, Ron, I don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? I just know that I want to look my best and I want to beat the package at nationals. And if I were to step on stage today with no water manipulation, no anything, like that would beat that look. So I'm just wanting to bring that to stage on Saturday, and then wherever the judges want to place me, you know, that's cool.
Wow. So like you said, you've been a type 1 diabetic since you were 4 years old. Did that present special challenges with the eating and everything all this time?
Oh, it always does. But I think bodybuilding is actually pretty healthy, right? You know, can be healthy, you know, because if I didn't exercise as much as I did, if I didn't do all the cardio that I did, if I didn't eat clean like I do all the time, my A1Cs would be way worse. I mean, my A1Cs are always in control. Obviously, the doctors don't understand bodybuilding. They don't want me being this big because obviously it's harder on your heart, things like that. But this is what I love to do, you know, and I do it as healthy as I can. And, you know, I think, you know, in all the exercise that I'm getting, I mean, my blood sugar is just super, super controlled.
Yeah. So do you stay fairly lean and you don't go like the 300, 310 in the off
Well, it's
season?
crazy. So like I do. So like when I started prep and I still had abs and I had like faint glute lines and I was like 300, 302.
Oof.
So yeah. So honestly, when I say I've lost that's 40, 44 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you were to look, if I sent you pictures at 300, you'd say, oh, he probably doesn't have 40 pounds. But you know, when you start stripping everything away, and literally my biggest knock is always not so much that I have like a quote unquote, you know, GH gut or anything like that, but I have visceral fat from using insulin and being on an insulin pump. And my waist from east to west is wider than some just because I'm a diabetic, right? And my genetic. But this is the first show. I mean, my stomach is like, there is not one speck of visceral fat. And not that there was to begin with, you know, in other shows, but I mean, it is just so flat. My waist is as little as it's ever been.
You bring up a good point because visceral fat, obviously you can't see it, it's underneath, it's around your organs. So how do you get rid of visceral fat? I don't even know.
I just think so here's something we actually talked to Chad last night and I said, and we were kind of talking about what we did. Like I didn't get any refeeds at all. Sometimes he would like to give me like a refeeds during prep, even like during nationals. I don't do a weekly cheat meal. He might give me like a refeed every, you know, 5-6 weeks, whatever, of influx of carbs. We didn't do any of that. He didn't give me one meal.
Wow.
I will say this though, I did take one meal this whole prep because I had a family thing and I was like, you know what, this is something I want to do. But that's it, you know, and it's just sticking to it and just doing it, you know. And I just think over time, and especially like my insulin sensitivity, like on my insulin pump. So like, for instance, my insulin pumps acts as a pseudo pancreas, right? So during like when I'm just pretty lean, but just in my off season, I might use 150 units of insulin a day because my pancreas does not produce any insulin. Right now, I am so efficient in using insulin. I'm using like 22 to 25 units of insulin a day. So I think in making my body not have to use the insulin, it's literally getting rid of that visceral fat. And that's why I think too, just because I'm a guinea pig for it, just because I have been a type 1 diabetic since I've been 4 years old. A lot of these people are like, oh, well, all these bodybuilders, it's the GH and that's extending their guts and things like that. I'm like, I honestly think it's the insulin. All the insulin that they're pushing is what's making it push out, because I can tell with me being a diabetic since I've been 4 years old, when you're eating all that food and then you're having to push all that insulin, it does have side effects. Are you going to grow? Yeah, you're going to grow, but you're also going to grow that midsection. You're going to extend that midsection as well. So I think sometimes the bodybuilding community has a wrong perception on that. And, you know, who better to tell people kind of how they feel than somebody who has to rely on insulin to live every day of their lives.
See, I wonder, do you have like maybe I'm using the wrong word when I say more judgmental attitude towards this callous, careless insulin use. I know guys who, I've heard guys doing like 100 units, 150 units a day, and they're not diabetic. They're just trying to get big. I mean, as
Right.
someone who, I'm sure you wish you never had to take insulin in your life. It's probably a
Yeah.
pain, it's
Yeah.
pain in the ass.
Because eventually it's going to shorten my life. You know what I mean? What was it is like, I just read something as well. And that's why I get my heart scans done all the time too. I think diabetics, like type 1 diabetics, are like a 50 or 60% greater risk of heart disease,
Hmm.
you know, and it's just like, it's not, it just doesn't, it's an autoimmune disorder at the basis of it. So it just doesn't affect your blood sugars. It affects all your internal organs and things like that. That's why I'm very anal on getting everything checked about every 3 to 4 months. And I'm just glad that I have a doctor who, you know, understands the lifestyle and who knows what to check and things like that. But to say all that, you know, I don't really judge anyone, but what I don't like seeing is I think a lot of guys abuse a lot of things that it's not needed. I mean, I've been doing this, gosh, I've been competing since I've been 20 years old. I think everybody's just in such a rush to where if people just enjoyed the process more of adding muscle and doing it quote unquote the right way, I think a lot of these bad side effects and this bad way of doing it, they could mitigate a lot of these risks if they just went the slow and steady rate of doing it, you know. But you know, a lot of times everybody wants the instant gratification. You got social media and all that stuff, and I just think that really sometimes is a hindrance to people's health. And you know, it's just at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. But you know, there's you gotta you just gotta be safe, you know. And I just feel like you said there's a lot of people who aren't safe, and oh my goodness, if I always tell people, I said I would not be this big if I was a diabetic and I had to use insulin. But if you told me right now, hey Brent, if you would trade not having diabetes, you'd be 60 pounds lighter and not be where you are bodybuilding wise, would you do it? In a heartbeat. Because guess what? Like, I just had diabetic retinopathy in my eye and I was blind for 6 months. That gives
Yeah,
you a little bit of.
I was waiting to tell that for you to tell that story, because this is
Yeah.
insane. We right before we started recording, because I was thinking, well, you turned pro toward the end of 2020. I thought you just took 2021 off. The usual guy wants to get bigger, wants to improve a body part or something, but no. Tell me what happened, because this is crazy.
Yeah, so I knew my vision wasn't the best, and every 6 months I go to my eye doctor just for general diabetic wellness checks for my eyes and everything. And anyways, he's just like, you got some major stuff going on. So they referred me to a retina guy, and he said, you have a severely torn retina in your left eye. And I was just like, oh man. So to make a long story short, I saw the surgeon. I had 4 surgeries. Each surgery was like 8 to 10 hours long. I was completely blind, like a 2400, where you can't even read the big E on the board, like when they have the big E on the board. I was that way all the way until November of this year. After those surgeries, most people have to lay down prone for about like 40 to 60 days so the eye sits correctly. Well, my chair was up high. So I literally, in this chair that I'm sitting in, I put pillows on each side and I had to sleep like this for about 40 days.
Oh,
and during that time, although I did a little bit, like I could never bend down, like to like look at anything because it could offset. So I took a few weeks off the gym and I just did like some little like band work and things like that, but not really lifting weights at all. And then after that, you know, and I'm somebody who I always probably overtrain. I never take time off. And I got back into the gym and, you know, I was just so kind of depressed. I actually ended up going out to the Olympia in October. Saw Chad there, talked to him. He's like, man, he said, you look pretty good for like, you know, everything you've been through. And, you know, and so we just ended up talking. I just said, you know, Indy's in my backyard. It's 2 hours away. I just said, I don't want to get on stage if I can't be better than nationals. But I said, do you think we got time to, you know, get back into it. And, you know, because I don't know how long I'm going to compete, but I know I at least want to use my pro card once, you know, because I'm old school where you can't call yourself a pro until you step on a pro stage.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you know, and then he said, yeah, I think you can do really well, man. So, and you know, so that's just kind of how this whole process started. And thank goodness, like, I'm about 20/40 in this eye now. The doctor is very pleased because he said these surgeries either go really, really good or really, really bad. Luckily, yours went really, really good. He said there's nothing that you could really, you know, do about it. It's called 32 years of diabetes. Your blood sugar is always under control. The way it tore, it was not like from Valsalvine and like in the gym. It was literally from your diabetes for 32 years and the toxicity of the disease. So that made me feel good that there's like, he thought I did a really good job of, you know, taking care of my blood sugars and being diligent on everything, and that, hey, you know, it's sad, but you know, there are consequences to diseases and sometimes you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is, no one's going to stop doing what they're doing, but I mean, there's a lot of things people are doing with insulin and growth that are going to probably make them diabetic sooner or later. And you know, they have
it's just crazy. And I just wish sometimes these people could live a day in my life just because they would realize, you know, I don't know any difference because I've had since I've been 4 years old, but everything that I have to go through, the normal person would not want to have to go through what I have to go through. I just try to turn something bad into something good and just try to stay positive about it. Because guess what? I don't have really any other way to go about it, you know? So I just, you know, I just try to stay positive in all aspects of my life and just try to have faith that, you know, something good can come out of something bad. And hey, guess what? This is a lot I've dealt with in life. Let's make the best of it that we can. So.
Yeah, I want to talk to you quickly about, you were actually had kind of my job for a time with Maximum Muscle Report. You know, you were on the other side, interviewing athletes, doing play-by-play wrap-ups and stuff. You know, did you get a different perspective? Because you probably found out like the athletes love it when you say nice things about them. If you ever criticize a physique, oh my God, some of them want to take your head off. But I mean, did give you a different perspective being on the media side of it.
Yeah, and I love it. And you know, a lot of these judges and promoters and people are my friends. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to get honestly, I think some of the times it makes them harder on me when I'm on stage. Yeah, honestly, like, oh, well, you know this person or that person. I actually had somebody say this, which I'm not going to say the person who told me this, but they're like, oh, well, Bill Sibilia and Jack Sullivan, they're gonna judge the Indy, so that should help you out. I'm like, they're my friends, but in all honesty, those are the two most fairest judges. Number one, two most best guys. And guess what? I think they're actually harder on me than other people would be just because they know that we are friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just really cool, the connections. I love doing it. I love the media part. I mean, you've been doing this. I did it for a snapshot and it worked out good because you know, being a school teacher, I had the summers off, right? So I could travel and go do that stuff. And I loved it. But man, those hours for those national shows, woo, yeah. Good night. And people don't realize that. Like, people don't realize, like, hey, you're up at 6 a.m. and by the time you get back to your room, it's going to be midnight. And oh, guess what? For Masters Nationals, try doing that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday hopping on a flight and going back home.
And how many meals a day you get during those coverage days?
Oh, Ron, it's horrible. I would never do that in contest prep. It couldn't be done. Nope. Those days I just kind of wash. I literally would double up on workouts during the week and eat a little bit more food on those days. And then on those weekends, I would just be like, I'll get in what I can get in. If I can get in a little bit, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. But I would never do that during a contest prep. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I've had people talk to me about after I get done competing. I don't know if I love bodybuilding. I am not getting paid doing this. You know, a lot of people do it because they get paid and everything. I'm doing it simply for the love of the sport. So if I can ever get in with, you know, a company doing media like you have, because I know you love the sport as well, and that's why you're doing it, or judging, and I've done a lot of things. So as my career comes to an end, I'm never going to be out of the bodybuilding scene. I just have to kind of see which avenue I want to go, just because I just love the sport, man. I love the smell of the protein. I love being backstage. I love it. And people are just like, why? I'm just like, I don't know, but I love it. Like this is my passion, and it's a beautiful thing. And, it's just what I'm passionate about.
That's funny because that was something I used to say. It was a line from the movie Apocalypse Now, where the Robert Duvall character, Colonel Kilgore, says, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." And I used to get to shows, go backstage, and I love the smell of protein. And back then there was hot stuff that everyone used to rub all
Oh
over themselves.
yeah, I remember that stuff.
Opened up
Oh,
your
that
mouth.
hot stuff though, it used to make my veins look so even crazier, but literally like it would make my skin like red and blotchy. So I had to stop using it. But yeah, I remember that stuff. And then some people put that dream tan stuff on, which that looked horrible. Ugh. But
that got outlawed eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that touched, you were never getting that stuff
off. Oh, horrible.
It was like that was it the Cat in the Hat, or Cat in the Hat came back? It was one of them where there was like a red spot they couldn't get out. It was going and it was moving on to everything. That's how Dream Tan is. I know, I'm all over the place. I want to back up and just tell people your road to pro, because you were right there so many times. 2016 USA, 5th place, Nationals, 4th place, 2018 USA, 5th place, Nationals, 3rd place, which is that was the Hunter and
John Smith.
Hunter John Smith. So I mean, man, and I saw last year that the guy that won your class in 2020, he did one of the, I want to say Chicago, Jeff. How do you say his name? I can't say it.
I always call him Big Bundy. He did. I think he did. He did. No. Sorry, diet brain. Tim Gardner show.
It was either it had to be Chicago, Tampa.
He did Tampa, and I think he got like 9th or 10th place, but 9th or 10th place against like 30 dudes at the end of the year, where you have all the big guys coming out. Like that's not too bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, this show's looking pretty good. I mean, you're going to be.
You have a list of competitors?
I don't. I have a working. Some people I know. Charles Griffin, I know, is going to. Yeah. He's going in. Blessing. Justin Rodriguez trying to defend his title. That big dude from Hungary, Peter Clankier. I mean, it's going to be a good lineup. And you know what? I'm so appreciative of the fact. I'm going to get some shit for this, but we have 10 or 11 divisions now. This show is just men's open bodybuilding, 212 bodybuilding, and women's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And there's a big amateur show with it too.
And that's what we love. That's what got us into it. Dude, you know what I mean? And I'm not dogging all these other divisions because each to their own, but like I like the meat and potatoes, you like the meat and potatoes, and
I'm there for the muscle.
What got into the sport. I didn't get into the sport watching a men's physique guy in board shorts. I got into the sport looking at the freakazoids and thinking, oh my gosh, like how could I look like that? I want to have that grainy paper skin and just be humongous. Like to me, that was just like the coolest thing ever, not watching some guy in, a front men's bikini post. And again, I don't mind men's physique. I'm probably going to get crap for saying that, but each their own. Some people, that's what they love. But for me, like why I got to lifting weights was because of the big time bodybuilders, and that's just the truth.
So if the 20-year-old you could see the 35-year-old you, what do you think would you have believed you could ever look like this?
No, honestly, no. And it's just, no, but the thing is that it's just hard work day after day after day. And being consistent speaks volumes, I think most people are like me, to where, if you do something day in and day out and stay consistent with it, you can reach their goals. Obviously, you're going to have the 0.0001% of genetic freaks who can rely on their genetics and let them take them all the way. But for most people, if you want anything substantial in life, you just got to grind and work hard. And that's just kind of my mantra, I know at the Indy Pro, here's kind of what my thought process going forward. I just want to be my best. I know my strengths are always my conditioning and my lines and my graininess, my vascularity. I know my weaknesses and I try to hide those. I will say though, for me to get into this shape is very hard. I see all these guys on Instagram the last few days posting everything that they're eating so far. And I'm just like, okay, keep eating, big guy, because guess what? A lot of these guys look like water buffaloes right now. And, that's not dogging them, but I can't do that, especially being a diabetic. I don't have the shape to where I can do that. Because if I look 10 to 15% less conditioned than I do right now, I'll be in the last call out. I have got to bring a freak factor to stage and just ride that out and just be full, tight, and hard. And, as far as the season's concerned, me and Chad and my wife talked about it, and we really don't know. I could be in the first call out, I could be in the last call out. It's all about the call outs and lineups and things like that. And, if I peak, and I feel like I'm 100%, but let's say I'm second or third call out, I'll probably just wrap it up for the year. If I get any Olympia points, I'll probably try to go do Toronto, which is 3 weeks later. I know with the way that we load and the way that we water manipulate, if I did New York, I could not be as sharp that next week as I would in Indy. So I need a few weeks to kind of reset everything. But for me, I really, really have to suffer to obtain this look. But I know if I don't do that work, then I'm going to be dead last. So that's just kind of the game plan going into it, is just suffer, and then load hard and fill back out. And that's, worked in the past. And so we're really not changing a lot. We're just at a point now to where the conditioning's even better than it's ever been. So, whether I'm first call out or last call out, as long as I beat my nationals look, and as long as I come in at my best, I can hang my hat on that, because my ultimate goal was to be an IFBB Pro, and I've already accomplished that. And not saying that I don't want to do anything more, because I do, and I believe in myself, but anything else is just kind of like a cherry on top right now for me.
Yeah. I mean, I find people like you so much more inspirational. I don't judge people for having these spectacular genetics. I mean, that's just, they didn't ask for it. That's what they were given at birth. But I know these people that they turn pro in their first try. They don't do cardio. They eat all kinds of crap, even like in prep, and they still end up winning shows. But
but wouldn't you feel guilty, Ron? I mean, if you're in a contest prep and you're trying to be the best that you can be on a pro stage, and you're eating all this garbage and cheating on your diet, I couldn't live with myself. Internally, I would feel so guilty, to where the food wouldn't be worth the guilt. And I mean, we kind of have the same attitude. I just don't know how these guys do it. Now, obviously, I just don't. I don't know. I don't understand it. Maybe that's just not the way I was raised, and I've never looked for the easy way out. Not saying that I'm not perfect, because I'm not, but I'm just saying that, hey, when it's go time, there's zero mistake. I'm a person. I'm either all or nothing, and I just don't understand that mindset, to where if you're going to go against the best bodybuilders in the world, because let's be honest, there's probably 20 to 30 IFBB open pros who compete in the world. And you're going to go against all them. How could you cheat and go off your diet and think, oh, well, I'm just good enough to where I can be my best and I can still do, whatever. That would have to be such a hard mental line to walk on. To me, it just wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah. Well, those people end up either leaving the sport because they get beat badly, or they have to change their whole attitude, because at some point they're going to go up against people with awesome genetics who don't cheat on their diets, don't slack on their cardio. They work super hard. And people with awesome genetics, with that kind of work ethic, that's like a Ronnie Coleman, that's a Phil Heath. Those people don't get beat. They just dominate. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing you, Brent. I've watched you from, a little Brent to this bigger version, and it's been cool to watch your progress over the years. And So
are you? So what day do you guys get in?
Thursday. I get in Thursday, so we'll be there all day Friday. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I get in. Well, it's only a 2.5 hour drive, which is awesome. Literally, I haven't been able to compete in the Midwest because no national shows are in the Midwest.
Right, yeah.
So I literally have friends and family, probably 30 people coming. So, and I have some pretty loud friends. So it's probably going to be, prejudging probably going to be pretty loud, but hey, you can be as loud as you want. Don't be stupid, but get excited, because to me, when I go to a show, I like that, you want to be excited. It is exciting to me seeing guys who are peeled and pro bodybuilders. One of the most exciting things to me, to watch, and all this time, it's never gotten old watching a bodybuilding show.
Were you at the 2020 Arnold when the pandemic was just starting?
I did not go to that. No, I did not.
That
No.
was kind of the judging. There was no crowd, no audience allowed. And it was kind of sad. I was like, big empty auditorium, some of the best physiques in the world up there, flexing their hearts out. And you'd hear like, a couple of people clapping because it was just the judges, the media, and a couple of the coaches and like spouses. And that was it. So yeah, I like it when it's raucous and rowdy and loud, like a New York pro crowd. They're nuts.
So. Yeah, for sure. And that's how it should be, and I just think it's awesome that, Dave Bowers is a good friend of mine, and he's just an awesome individual. I'm just glad that he brought bodybuilding to the Midwest. Obviously, you have the Chicago Pro, which is a great show as well. But I just think what a way to kind of kick off the year, you know what I mean? And it also worked out good for me as well because, I'm a realist. Like my pro debut, I didn't want to hop into the Tampa. Like I wanted to hop into a lower tier show to get my feet wet and, to feel like I had maybe like a realistic shot of doing pretty well, so so you have that as well. So that also kind of went into my decision making as well. But I just think it's great that, we have the opportunity in the Midwest, to watch bodybuilding. And like you said, 212 female and men's open. And I think it's going to be a great show. Like I said, other than those names that you said, I don't know who else. I think Dave told me so far as of yesterday, I think there's like 14 guys, but probably a few more will be added, which I don't understand why people sign contracts late anyways, but I guess we'll get the official list out probably on Monday. So
yeah, in the old days, back when we had to walk 10 miles in snow to school, pros had to sign contracts in January for every show they were going to compete in that calendar year. And unless they could get a doctor's note, they were injured or something, if they didn't compete in the shows that they were supposed to compete in, they got fined in those days. So it was a totally different era.
Don't you think it's wild too? So like I've known that I made a commitment to myself in, it would have been October of this past year. And every single waking moment, I've been working towards that. How could somebody not have a set date in mind and say, "Oh, I think I'm just going to wing it, show up to the Indy Pro next week"? With like, what? Like, I just don't. And again, everybody's different, to each their own. But if I did that, I would be looking like a soggy piece of crap.
I don't think they're not prepping. I think some of them want that element of surprise, like it's going to matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like stealing someone's T-shirt backstage. It's the physiques on stage are going to get judged however they're going to get judged. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
We knew you were coming a month ago, or just found out yesterday. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it makes no difference whatsoever. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, but I'm just very old school. I all the time, I get it. Most of my friends are older than me. I'm not, I've never been like crazy. I've never been, I've just always kind of had an old soul. So I think that's why I get along with older people so well. I'm just the way I was brought up. But I don't know, some of the things that these competitors are doing now, I just kind of shake my head. I'm like, man, you could be so much better if you just did things a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, Brent, you've been very generous with your time, even in this brain fog, as we're actually recording this, guys, on Saturday, for full disclosure.
Well, it helped, Ron, because in all honesty, I'm a type A personality type of person, and the food's low, and I'm trying to keep myself busy all day long. Keeping time, if I just sit in a chair and do nothing, will go by very slowly. So when you said, "Hey, let's hop on Saturday," I'm like, "Hey, I'll talk as long as you want, brother."
I remember that. I'd be like, "Oh, I can't eat till 3:00. Oh. I remember that so vividly.
Do you miss it? How much do you miss it?
Oh, all the time, every day. Loved it.
Will there ever be a time where you would do a master show, do you think?
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, my health is pretty important to me these days.
Of course, yeah.
My kids are 28 and 22. So especially with everything that's been happening last year.
Oh, I know.
I know for me to compete, what I would do would not probably be the smartest thing for my long-term outlook on health and longevity. So,
but the cool thing is too, though, is that you still get to live it doing what you're doing with, MD. So it's like you have the best of both worlds,
I'm very happy
hopefully
to see
one day
guys
I can be a little Ron Harris and do it as well, just because, when you have that love and passion for the sport, man, like you got to feed it somehow.
Yeah. This is how I live vicariously through guys like you now. Watch your process, the joy and pain on stage, the drama. It's still it's still thrilling. I love going to shows and just the atmosphere, the energy, you know, someone who's all these people who have been preparing so hard for so long for that one day, for those few moments up on stage. It's a very, very special, unique sport that, you know, most people could never understand outside of our little world.
I know. So,
Well, so wrap it up. Thank you so much, Brent, for
no worries.
your time making your pro debut at the Indy Pro, guys. DaveBowersProductions.com, IFBB Indy Pro on Instagram. If you want some info on that, get the pay-per-view, check it out. Check out all our coverage too. And subscribe to the channel while you're at it. Why not? Hit the notification bell, comment, share, like, all that good crap. And you'll see this man on stage at the Indy Pro, Brent Swansen, very soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.